All right, so let me kind of go over the pieces of what we're going to talk about today. There's the kind of what I call the Uber content creator. This is um, it's a Claude project. You can do this as a skill. You could do this in ChatGPT. You could do this in Copilot. We just did a full day of Copilot training yesterday for a client. All of the principles work, although the implementation will be different. This skill or this project is a structured set of content markdown files, and hopefully I can show you those as well. Um, that helps you kind of not start with a blank page, but what I think is really cool, there's two things that are really cool about it. One, it has a menu system, and this is part of how I deliver the value to the customer, which is, and again, I'll show you, but this is kind of a screenshot of the menu system. So when you go into this, you type menu and it shows a structured menu of all the things that are possible. You can still do whatever you want, but every one of these things in the menu are hooked to kind of a harness or an anchor that's sitting in one of those files. So posts have certain fundamentals about them. There's an evaluation process. We'll talk a little bit about evaluations today. There's prompting available for multiple image generators, and there's kind of structures and frameworks. And I'm kind of a framework guy, so there's a lot of frameworks for writing. One of the things you'll see as I give you the examples is that my skills and projects, they all try to identify what is this thing doing. It's trying to infer or understand, is this a blog post? Is this a short social media post? Those kinds of things. And so then I can extend that menu. So this is like I said, Claude Project Markdown skill. And just to give you, if I can, again, like tell me if you can see this. Do you see this folder that how do I see what's showing on screen? Okay, good. You can see this. Okay, so this particular content evaluator is made up of a bunch of things that get uploaded into the project, the ICP and my profile, in this case, Marc Sirkin Consulting. But then all of these files, and I'll open one or two of them just to show you. Like here's the structures file, and again, I presume that most of us are doing some of this kind of thing. Where's the file? Open up. There we go. So this is the structures file, one of a number of files that the project uses, and it has all the formatting guidelines. It goes through all these structures. I've imported all these structures to AIDA, and then it actually has real specific examples of how it works, like how I like to write certain things. There's an ABT structure one. So again, there's all these sort of copywriting structures that you can use. And again, like if we look at these, there's a hooks version, there's a frameworks version, there's a video construct. To be clear, AI created all of these files, right? I didn't write any of these files. I did an interview process that generated the markdown files that then fuel the project. Okay, so that's the content creator. Again, I'm going to show it to you in a second, just give you an overview. The content evaluator, this is a Claude skill, and this is really, really cool. And I think given how much time I've spent in the SEO, AEO world and the experts, the true experts, I'm not a true expert, the true experts in the universe who do this stuff every single day at very high levels, I've kind of sucked down as much intel from them. This started for me when I was watching a guy named Mike King talk on a YouTube about some of the issues around what kind of the myths of SEO and AEO GEO are. And I was like, oh, I should kind of think about that. And that turned into this Claude skill. So this thing uses quality rater guidelines, which is how Google determines on the SEO side, but there's some real interesting parallels for AEO and GEO. There's a Princeton paper that I really liked, and then there's Will Reynolds, Mike King, and other of my favorite kind of SEO, GEO experts out there. And what this thing does is, and you can chain it from the Claude project by invoking with slash, is I have my piece of content. This could be a content that my content evaluator wrote, something I wrote, something I just copied and pasted. And it runs through and gives, this is one of the screens that we'll see in a minute, just an overview of like what is happening in this content. Is this thing optimized for SEO or not? Is it readable? What are the GEO elements? And then it kind of gets into the kind of nitty gritty pieces of how you should be constructing and thinking about content in a AEO GEO world. I haven't decided if I'm going to call it AEO GEO, so I use them interchangeably. I apologize. But things like passage extractability and cosine similarity, and I will talk about cosine similarity in a minute because I built myself a tool to help me first understand what the hell that means, because I did not, and then actually to be able to use it functionally in building content. And so this is kind of the second piece that I use. And again, it's called Skill, and I've actually been messing around with it in other systems as well. And one thing I'll say about Claude, because I think the rumor and the myth is Claude's such a good writer, I confirmed this through like every LLM I could possibly test, including a couple of open source models. It turns out that when you load a bunch of context into Claude and then you try the same thing in GPT and you try the same thing in Gemini, Claude just does a better job of remembering that context. I don't know if it has to do with the context window or practically speaking, maybe some of you know the answer, but I've done specific tests where I've created the same thing in all three models. And I don't know that Claude's a better writer, but Claude is way better at not forgetting context. So when you're getting the nuance from all these input files, Claude just does a much better job of it. So that's content evaluator. Again, I'll show you in a sec. And then the last piece, when I'm kind of at the end, I go through an AI slop detector, which is, I know we all, again, most of us do this, but this, I just run this through and say, okay, great, check for slop. And it gives me some really interesting feedback and then helps me navigate where do I want to change that? Am I falling into it's X, not Y, or it's, X, Y, whatever it is, and all this stuff that we're seeing AI ship. So it's being informed by my voice. It's trying its best to do the structures. What's ironic is you give it all this content and it tends to ignore some of the things. And so I've built in these multiple evaluation processes to help me get as good as I can, not just from a content quality standpoint, but from a GEO SEO standpoint. And then the last thing is something I call SimCheck. This is an app that I built. I believe it's Python, and it's running this model called BAAI BGE. It's a sentence transformer, and I'll get to that when I get to that if there's time and we can ask questions. Okay, so where's the chat? Any questions so far? Anybody? Thumbs up. Keep going. Shut up. Everyone had
We're
enough of
good.
me.
Keep
Okay, good.
going. I
Okay,
think we're tracking. Yep.
good. Okay, so I'm gonna start with what's that? Okay,
Yep.
good. All right, I'm gonna start with this page. And so this is a page that is now on our website. I created this 2 days ago or something like that. And it's the AI enablement and execution page on WalkWest's site, right? So we sell this as a service, and we do projects with companies, and we needed a better way to describe what was going on. And so what I did after we had a conversation about it was I came to a content evaluator, or I came to content evaluator, which is this Uber content creator project. This is Claude. Again, it's portable. It works okay in other systems, best in Claude, for the reason I talked about earlier. And I asked it to help me create a piece of content for this page. And I had an outline. This outline came from us recording an hour and a half conversation we had about how we're going to package these services, right? So it was like I had the actual verbatims of what people said in the room. I was really excited about it. I was like, okay, so I had Claude creating an outline. I distributed that outline to the team. Is this the right outline? Yes, it is. Here's some pieces, whatever it was. And then I took it here to do the next step. So Claude's telling me it's a strong outline, and it's going to start immediately evaluating based on the voice. Now, one of the challenges I had here was I haven't built a fully custom voice for Walk West yet, so I'm using my voice and then sort of editing it a little bit, but it's all informed. And so it's already still telling me like, here's some flags. Um, there was another little prototype website we built that it couldn't load. And so it's giving me all the qualifications, whatever it might be. And so it's now suggesting, an H1, H2 skeleton for SEO, GEO. Okay, great. I have a framework for this thing. I've instructed it. I don't want it to just draft. I never want this thing to just start drafting. I want to engage it in different ways. And so it's kind of programmed to ask a lot of questions. So here you see it. It's like, kind of qualifying some things. I remembered that on this little Lovable site that our CEO had built, that he had this chart or this interactive table. It's like, oh shoot, I really want that on the page. I can't forget that. And so, add that to the context. That's all good. And it just again kind of keeps going, right? So now I clarify some more things. It's all good. This is again, we go through this all stuff. All this it's asking me about Greg, blah 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 blah, whatever. Finally, it's like, okay, draft this thing, right? So it drafts the first version of it, and it's telling me here's the H1s and where to drop stuff in, and that's all great. And so I was pretty happy with it. I'm skipping some screens here just for purpose of today. But this is where we link to the second piece. So this is where I'm in Claude. I don't have to leave. I don't need no copying and pasting. Oh, I've got the skill loaded. Let's run the evaluation skill. Now, what's interesting, and I was looking at this morning, prepping for this, I have two different skills One's a landing page skill, and one's a content evaluator for GEO. Claude figured out, which I was happy when I looked at this. Claude figured out the right one to use, but I should have invoked this specifically with slash evaluation, and I just asked it generically, but it worked it out. And so you can kind of see like it's working itself out. It's one of the things that this content skill does. If you give it a live URL, not only does it fetch the content on the page, but it looks at all the other scaffolding, all the technical SEO. It actually pulls schema, it looks at metadata, it does the full thing because, as it turns out, in order to get cited in LLMs, there's a bunch of different factors that you need to think about. It's not just about the words on the page, it's about the structure of the H1s and the H2s, it's about the JSON and the schema data on the page. It's about how you've constructed the keywords, and so it pulls the scaffolding down. In this case, can't do that because it wasn't a live page; it was just content, and that's fine. The way I built the skill is that it has protocols, and when it fails to find a live page, it reverts and it sort of scaffolds down to just do the basics. So this will do SEO readability and GEO dimensions, and so what it does is it comes back and it says, okay, we read the page, it's a landing page, no YMYL, content only. Okay, great. And it will go through, it says, here's the top strengths of the page, specific attributable proof points throughout. One of the big things that we're learning about GEO is if you don't have citations on the page, you're not going to get cited. So it's what I find is this is practically helpful to not just share with myself, but with my team. Like when you're writing a piece of content, here's the things not to forget. And the beautiful thing about this skill is that it just reminds you straight up. It talks about strong passage level extractability. One of the things that's really disorienting about writing for the machines is machines get confused very easily. So if you have a paragraph and you're trying to make 3 points in one paragraph, bad. 1 point per paragraph. That's where you get passage level extractability. So on Google, when you see other people ask, or when you see a citation, when you've asked about something specific, you know that you've written a paragraph that has the answer to the question in it. And this affects how we write and it affects how we think. The good news is, unlike the SEO slop days, that this kind of writing is actually much clearer for humans to read as well, versus, keyword stuffing and all the nonsense that we went through over the last 20 years with SEO. It also looks at, does this page also have clear SEO fundamentals? One of my philosophies is that GEO and AEO build on SEO, that these things are layers. There's a portion of the world that I live in where there's people who want to say GEO is totally different. I don't think it's totally different. I think if you don't do the fundamentals right, you got a problem, and that's why I've built this skill to work in this way. It then shows opportunity improvements. So we've got an entity issue. Again, another piece that when you do this work, you realize, shoot, I really have to be mindful and careful about entity mapping. Who is this page about? How does it relate to the other pages on the site? When we're talking about third-party citations and affiliates and the rest, are they referencing us the right way? In this case, I only mentioned Walk West once on the page, and that needs to get fixed, which obviously is part of the process here to update the content. No freshness signal. Again, these are the things we're learning about LLMs. LLMs like fresh content. And so if you've got an evergreen page, you sort of need to figure out every once in a while how to freshen that content up, move some things around, add some new citations. And here, there's no schema plan on record because I just didn't have it yet. This is just the content. So I showed this screen earlier. This is the scorecard it gives you: SEO, readability, GEO, and all of these scores, which we kind of saw earlier. And now it gives a detailed analysis. Now, what's great about this is I can just give this analysis to a content person, or in this case, I was doing the content myself. But this is like a prescriptive, like, here's the things. And if you're in Claude, you can actually obviously just say, hey, go ahead and update this for me. And it looks at everything, right? This thing is really designed with all the best thinking. I've been updating this skill once a month, once every month and a half, by kind of like getting whatever the latest research is. There's a guy named Rand Fishkin that some of you may know. He publishes some great research with Datos. SEMrush has some great data. Ahrefs has great data. And so I'm really aggregating and assembling kind of the latest, greatest information about SEO Geo, and then funneling it into this skill so that I can mechanize it. And use it with clients, use it with colleagues, and use it with myself. One more thing to show. So that was the AI slop. So let's talk about SimCheck. So SimCheck is this app I built. It's on Streamlit. Again, I can share the link. I don't know how much traffic it can get without breaking it. But what SimCheck does is it reads a piece of content. And the way I built this is you can pop a URL in or just load content in. And I'm going to give you a really silly, it's just kind of a silly example just to show kind of how it works. And so this is an article I found. I don't even remember the URL at this point, but it was what is DKIM? I don't know if anybody knows what DKIM is. It's an email authentication scheme. If you don't know what that is and you have anything to do with email, you should go check and make sure you guys are set up. Um, but this is an article about DKIM, and then I seeded it with some weird content. And so what happens is when you hit the analyze document, hopefully this will work. It's going to go through and it's going to tell you a couple of things that are really, really interesting. One is it gives a SIM score, which is how ready is this piece of content for AI for AEO GMs, right? And it's out of 100, and it's kind of a little, not really a made up score. It's just like it's trying its best to sort of go like, is this a good or a bad thing? And it tells you, like, okay, this page needs work. It's got weak focus. The point of cosine similarity, and I meant to grab this graphic that I forgot to grab, but if you've ever seen a vector a cosine graph, you'll know what I'm talking about. But here's a simple way to describe it. If I said to you, "What's a bat?" with no context, you might think a baseball bat, or you might think a vampire bat, or you might think something else, right? Like we know how this works. The problem that we have when we write content is that as we write content, if we're not very focused on what we're writing, which very often we're not, because we're trying to make multiple points, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to passage extraction, we drift. We start talking about other things that don't belong in that article. And so what this system does is it shows you the drift map. So this piece, based on the keyword, right? So the target topic for this piece of content is DKIM email authentication. And we can see here, we've got a title. I should make this bigger. Hold on. That's got to be better, right? Okay. So DKIM email authentication. The content is what is DKIM? It says DKIM, how DKIM works. It's got it all over the place. But for some reason, the chart here shows it gets weak towards the end of the article. And so we got a score of 51 and 47. So if I go through here and I look, I'm like, oh, look, like accidentally, I didn't really, I mean, this is a setup, so whatever. But this thing talks about our favorite conference snacks and a weekend hiking recap. Like it's just dumb content to have in there. So if I get rid of that content and I reanalyze the document, what we're going to see is that the scores immediately jump up. We've removed noise from the content and the clarity has gone up. This is what AI wants. AI wants you to write about one thing at a time so it can be very clear. It wants you to have FAQs on the page so it can answer all the questions so that it can give you the searcher the answer that you want them to get. And so now you can see the drift map is totally different. It's now there's no drift. I'm talking about one thing. This whole piece is talking about DKIM authentication. And what's interesting here is when you show this to somebody who thinks they've written a great article, oh, it gets a lot of traffic, but it's not getting cited, blah, 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 blah. This is a really easy way to see it, understand it. And then really sort of for me, like I said, I didn't really know really what cosine similarity was, but this is a tool that now has both educated me on what this is and given me actual practical tools to use it, because the other thing it does is oh shoot. Let me load the example again. It will give you a roadmap on how to fix things, right? So here's an action plan. So rewrite or cut off topic sections to reduce topical drift. And it actually will tell you like where is this happening? Every year the team argues about the best conference snacks. Again, that's something, it's an obvious one. But that's my point is that cosine similarity is how LLMs actually work. When you type in something, it is trying to figure out, does this person mean vampire bat or baseball bat? I can't give you the right answer if I don't know what the context is. That's why when we talk about context and when I show you, let me bring that back up. When I show you all these files, that's all context, right? Like my writing examples are context. The patterns are context. The hooks, like Johan's talking about, are context so that I can get closer and closer and closer to the thing I want to create and not allow LLMs to hallucinate their way to writing about vampire bats and not baseball bats.